Hey Mavens, it's Trudy. If you're serious about building a bookkeeping business, one of the best investments you can make is learning from people who've already mastered business, leadership, productivity, communication, and personal growth. And that's exactly why we created the Maven 75. The Maven 75 is an exclusive library available to our Maven Inner Circle members. It features executive summaries of 75 of the most influential business and personal development books ever written. Some are timeless classics by authors like Dale Carnegie. Others are modern favorites from people like Tony Robbins. And a few are hidden gems you've probably never heard of, but absolutely should. And here's why we built it. At Maven, we teach these principles every day. But we never want you to accept an idea simply because we said it. Instead, we go directly to the original experts, the true mavens, to learn what they have to say. These authors have spent years and often decades researching, testing, and refining the ideas that have helped millions of people become better leaders, better business owners, and more successful entrepreneurs. What you're about to watch is one episode from the Maven 75 library featuring Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, a book that has had an enormous impact on the way business owners think about systems and growth. If you're short on time, these summaries will help you capture the key ideas really quickly. If a particular book resonates with you, I highly encourage you to buy it, study it, and apply its principles to your own business, and then apply those principles to your clients' businesses as well. So let's go see what the Mavens have to say. Today's Maven is Michael Gerber, and this may be one of the single most important books for bookkeeping business owners because many people do not actually build businesses. They build jobs that they happen to own, and eventually those jobs become exhausting. And that is the central idea behind the E-Myth Revisited. Now, despite being written decades ago, this book still feels incredibly relevant because the problems Gerber describes are everywhere, especially in bookkeeping. And one of the biggest concepts of this book is what Gerber calls the technician trap. And I talk about this constantly, especially on TikTok. The idea that people who are highly skilled at a technical job, like bookkeeping, often assume that that means they can automatically know how to run a business built around that work. Because those are two very different skill sets. Bookkeeping professionals fall into that trap constantly. Someone becomes great at reconciliations, payroll, cleanup, financial organizations, or client support and naturally decides, I should start my own business. But eventually they discover doing bookkeeping and operating a bookkeeping business are not the same thing. One requires technical skill. The other requires systems, operations, leadership, boundaries, processes, pricing, communications, workflow management, and long-term structure. That distinction changes everything. Another major principle throughout the book, systems create scalability. And this again aligns perfectly with Maven. Gerber argues that businesses should operate through documented, repeatable systems instead of depending entirely on memory, personality, or constant owner involvement. Because businesses built around one overwhelmed person eventually hit a ceiling. And bookkeeping firms are especially vulnerable to this problem because everything lives in someone's head, someone's inbox, someone's memory, or someone's personal workflow, which means the business cannot scale. Can't scale predictably or unpredictably. It simply can't scale. The owner becomes the bottleneck. That's exactly why SOPs matter so much, not because they're corporate bureaucracy, but because systems create consistency, efficiency, stability, delegation, and operational clarity. Another big concept in the book, work on the business, not just in the business. A lot of bookkeeping professionals rarely create time for this. They spend all day reacting, handling transactions, answering emails, solving client problems, and meeting deadlines, while never stepping back to improve pricing, operations, systems, marketing, client onboarding, communication, or their business structure. Eventually, the business becomes busy but fragile. Gerber repeatedly emphasizes the importance of building businesses intentionally instead of by accident. And that's one of the core ideas behind Maven itself. Not simply, can you do bookkeeping, but can you build an operationally sound bookkeeping business? The book also explores the importance of consistency, and that matters so much in bookkeeping because clients value predictability. Predictable communication, predictable processes, predictable delivery, and predictable workflows. Consistency is what builds the trust you need for bookkeeping, and trust creates long-term retention and those referrals you need. Another major lesson throughout the book: entrepreneurs must eventually evolve beyond technical thinking because technicians focus primarily on doing the work. Operators focus on designing systems that allow the work to happen consistently, efficiently, and sustainably. And that's a completely different mindset. That mindset shift is where many bookkeeping businesses either stagnate or begin scaling successfully. The book also reinforces this really important issue. Your business should not collapse every time you step away from it. A lot of business owners quietly build operations that cannot function without their constant involvement. That's exhausting long term. Strong systems create sustainability, and that's why we create systems. And finally, one of the strongest ideas throughout this book is that the business should be designed intentionally from the get-go, from day one, the inception, not patched together reactively over time. And that is an important lesson for bookkeeping entrepreneurs to learn because operational structure affects stress, growth, profitability, delegation, the client experience, and long-term sustainability. That's why books like The E-Myth, and this is the revisited version, continue resonating so strongly with entrepreneurs across all industries. Because while technology evolves, the importance of systems, structure, and operational thinking never disappears. And the professionals who learn how to transition from technician to operator to business owner will always have a significant advantage. So if you want to take a deeper dive into Michael Gerber's work, I do recommend picking up The E-Myth Revisited. Read it carefully and highlight it heavily and apply it honestly because this book has changed the way countless entrepreneurs think about business ownership. If you want to grab a copy for yourself, I'm going to drop a link below. Now, most importantly, even though we discuss all of these concepts at Maven, we never want you to just take our word for it. And that is precisely why we turn here to see what the Mavens have to say.